by popular request, here is a Betamax VCR. Or I guess, what did Toshiba call theirs? I guess just Beta. It wasn't Beta Cord, Beta Vision, they all had their own names. But this is a Toshiba. It's a V-600C. You can see on the remote it says V600. And I don't think it has a model number on the front. Kind of get a shot here. And this is a plain Jane 2-head mono Beta VCR from, I believe, 1984. Absolutely simple. And I've had this thing for a couple of decades now. I got it around 2000 from a family friend who was getting rid of it. It was barely used. I think it was her dad's. The remote, when I got this, had Toshiba branded batteries. Like, the batteries had this old school Toshiba logo on them. And they still worked. After like 16 years, I guess it would have been. This thing was immaculate. Came with the manual, all that sort of stuff. I've since lost it. I've a couple moves. It's been scratched, beaten up. The rewind button was broken. I had to sort of glue it back in. See, it's all gnarled here. But it works, and it's my workhorse. So whenever I'm digitizing tapes and putting them on the internet or whatever, this is my Betamax or Beta VCR that I use. And it does a pretty decent job. I would like to have something hi-fi, because I would assume that some of the stuff I'm playing back is hi-fi, especially the stuff I recorded. And in the 90s, I had a Sanyo VCR 7200, which was their hi-fi model. So some of the stuff I have recorded is in hi-fi, but otherwise this does a pretty good job. I can float a tape in here. Well, actually, hold on. Let's watch it load from the beginning. So I got a little sample tape here. You can hear it loading the tape. It is loud. Now let's get some sound. Ooh, computer graphics. I don't know the way this is hooked up if I'm going to have any audio. So this is recorded in Beta 2. You can see the scan isn't great. Oh yeah, it's going to get me a copyright. Let me can do a fast forward. So it's got your standard 4-digit non-linear counter. Just a belt that goes to the counter from the reel on this side. All the functions work great.
With flexibility to grow with you. Better, Mr. Watson?
Grab the remote. Do a pause. What else do we have here? Got slow. Which is, so if I hold it, it's slow. And if I let go, it just stops. So it's kind of like a frame advance. Stop. Yeah, I mean, it's a decent little machine. When I decided to bring this back into service last year, the only thing wrong with it was one of the belts had fallen apart. Replacing that one belt, and it's as good as new. I had a weird problem. I was using this little cheap composite to HDMI adapter to capture video, and the power supply it came with, it's either that or the HDMI recorder. They came with these cheap power supplies, and it was causing a noise issue on here that looked like a tracking problem. I had to literally take the video head apart and very carefully put it back together, trying to figure out where this problem was coming from. And well, here, I'll open it up and kind of show this a little better.
Step left. Ready for cha-cha, right foot front.
To it. They jump on these ice floes. They'll get into the water. Now that water is really traveling. You get down into that water, you're not going to last more than a couple of minutes.
It's so easy to open when you don't put the screws back in. So anyway, what I had noticed is that here is the information from the video head going to the video processing, and I had this popped open, and when I would sort of put my finger touching this metal can and over top of here and act as a shield, the tracking got better. If I just took my finger and pushed it above one of the pins and acted as an antenna, it got worse. And that made me think maybe this is picking up some sort of noise. And I was able to isolate it by just hooking this up to an old school CRT television, and it worked fine. So I was able to backtrack all the way to the power supply. At any rate, that means I've taken this head apart, whether I should have or not. And it's been working fine. I got it lined up correctly and made sure that it's lined up where it was before. It's a very, very, very simple mechanism. Lots of gears. Lots of motors doing independent functions. Motor, motor, motor. This does a motor. You can look underneath afterwards. You can see how these beta mechanisms differ. They have the C, or I guess they call it the B load. I don't know. I always thought of it more as like a C as it goes around, but you have your record head. Or I guess it's race head here, and if I remember right, the other heads should be on this as well. Are they? Ah, no, that's right. They're around the backside here. So when it pulls the tape in, it'll pull it all the way around. So now the tape has gone all the way over this audio and tracking head, looping back, going across the erase head, and all the way around. It's kind of neat. They have this big planetary gear that spins around when it loads. Very cool. Let's grab a tape recorded in Beta 3. Yeah, that ought to do. I'm assuming that's Beta 3. And as you can see, oh, that's a little nasty. Must have had some dirt on the tape. Some of these tapes are old and dirty. Pause. You can see it's a lot better because it's on the Beta 3 mode. This just has a little LED to indicate Beta 3 or no LED, not Beta 3, which must be Beta 2. And your tracking and record speed switches are here. TV VCR record, one-touch record, your timer settings. This is, ignore this. When I took it apart to fix the switch, this is actually in clock mode right now, but I didn't line this little slider up with the switch. But I don't care because I never use it, so just pretend you didn't see this that I'm showing you right here and drawing attention to. Just ignore this right now. Looking at the controls here, it's pretty minimalist. Standard controls here, indicators, you have a tape in and your record speed. If it's not playing or if it's in record mode, it'll show you what the switch is set to for recording. If you're playing, obviously it'll show the playback speed. Clock set and all your timer and clock controls. This is only a clock or a timer. That's it. Turn memory on and off. Reset. So the only indicator in terms of controls, like if I hit rewind, no indicator. Fast forward, no indicator. There's an indicator for play, and there's an indicator for pause. That's it. So very, very simple. One thing that is nice though, this has so more than 12. This has got 14 presets. It's got the 2 extra ones besides just your 13 VHF channels. And it actually has 4 settings for the bands. It's got a 5th setting, or 4th setting, sorry, for KTV. So this will actually tune in probably up to channel 36. That's pretty typical of these. So, I mean, that's nice for 1984. It's very handy. And I do love, I don't know if this is common to Betamax models versus VHS or this one, but how fast it will go between fast forward and rewind scan. So I play, fast forward, rewind, fast forward, rewind, fast forward, rewind, fast forward, rewind, and so forth. One other neat thing on the front panel here that I like, get a little more light going on here, the eject button. You look and you say, well, where's the eject button? I don't see any buttons. This whole little panel here is a button. This whole thing. So I can press it up here. Kind of neat. And here's the back side. This is the belt, and the only belt, and this one drives the capstan. Here's the motor for the head. Here's, I'm assuming, part of the loading mechanism, the motor. Here's the motor for the idler. Go and take a look on the other side here. You can see there's your idler. So, I mean, this is a very basic VCR. I mean, it's not basic in terms of how many motors it has, but it's nicely spaced out, easy to service, one belt, and it's been pretty reliable. And I just plugged in the tuner. So I've plugged it into my, where is it, in-house cable here. Disconnected that from the TV. And I tuned in a couple of the UHF channels. There's more channels, but I just tuned in the 2. And there's no sound, because I normally just keep this little BNC to RCA adapter plugged in the back here when I'm using it, so I don't get a bunch of loud snow fuzz sound when I stop tapes. But that's it. It's the Toshiba, what did I say, V-600C? Yeah, that sounds right. And one more note, these were very, very common that I remember. I've had 2 of these. I bought one at a garage sale. At one point I had 2 of them, and I sold one of them. They both had the remotes and everything. I remember family friends having these. I can think of at least 3 family friends, like parents' family friends back in the 90s that had this model. A store in the city must have brought all these in and just sold a ton of them, because this is one of the most common Betamax models that I've seen around here. I mean, as I'm talking, there's one for sale on the local buy and sell on Kijiji, so they're definitely plentiful. And if you find one of these, it probably still works. I lied to you. Here's the second belt right here. It drives this whole planetary gear mechanism. Damn. I'm just full of misinformation. Fast forward, rewind. Fast forward, rewind. Fast forward, rewind. Fast forward, rewind.